So again, just before I hand over to Aodhán, I'd again just like to highlight that this report is research into 7 EU countries, and it contains specific recommendations for all of those countries, for states generally, but also for the EU. And I really would suggest that you study those recommendations in particular to get the detail of that. As I mentioned earlier, legislation is planned in Ireland. Unfortunately, we don't yet have a firm indication of when the legislation will be introduced. And that delay, I mean, again, if we put this in the context of the years that trans people are waiting and have been waiting for this legislation, the years lost as people wait to simply get access to the full range of their rights as provided from under all of the international treaties, that's a significant challenge. So of course our overarching recommendation to the Government of Ireland is that it should ensure that transgender people can obtain legal recognition of their gender without further delays and through a quick, transparent and accessible procedure. And secondly, that the Government of Ireland ensure that the Gender Recognition Bill will not require transgender people to be single or to have undergone any specific health treatment to obtain legal gender recognition. Moreover, the Irish Government should ensure that children will be given the possibility to obtain legal gender recognition, taking into account their best interests and, crucially, their evolving capacities. So I'd just like to, at this point, hand over and welcome Deputy Aodhán O'Ríordáin.
Thanks very much, Colin. Just before I start, I want to recognise, I see Joan Collins is here, who's a member of the committee as well, and John Lyons, who's been advocating this issue for a long time, and it's great to have you here. I remember John actually at the Constitutional Convention reminding everybody about the issue of marriage equality. He spoke about Ireland being a republic, and sometimes you forget what that actually means. It doesn't mean the absence of a monarchy. It means something deeper, much more profound. It means it's a country based on equality. Now, as Colin quite rightly said, there is a gender recognition bill. We have been given the heads of the bill and came to committee. Part of the reason for the delay is because our committee spent an awful lot of time talking about this bill. And I think that's a credit to all the members of the committee who, some of them quite openly and honestly came to the table and said, you know, I'm conservative on these issues normally, but this issue has actually changed my mind. This is other members of the committee. And we spent a lot of time talking about the various different aspects of the bill. I think some of the advocates who have come to the committee and spoken here today, like Ben and Catherine, are incredibly brave. I think the parents of trans young people are incredibly brave and incredibly supportive, and are making this an awful lot easier for legislators, because there are legislators who shy away from this. It's not a prejudice necessarily. I think it's an uncomfortableness with the topic, the vocabulary involved, the language involved, and there's a tendency to shy away from these issues sometimes when you're not in your comfort zone. So I think the Oireachtas certainly has to step up to the mark, and I feel that the committee actually has stepped up to the mark in dealing with this bill, because from the government TD's point of view, there's a temptation sometimes to have legislation come across the desk, to accept it because it's government legislation and to move on. And from the opposition point of view, there's a tendency sometimes to object and to reject immediately. But in fairness to the committee, I would say on this particular bill, and the heads of this bill, we have looked at it on its merits. It has gone further, as Colin has already alluded to, than any other government has gone previously. It is a bill that will advance many of the aims of the LGBT community that they've been fighting for, and many of us have been advocating for. But there are problems with it. We will accept that, and we're trying to work to change that. There is an issue with the age limit of 18. We have across the board suggested that it should be lowered to 16. There is an issue around the requirements not to be in a union. For example, there's a constitutional questionality as to if you require to change your gender identity, that you would require a divorce if you're involved in the union or if you're in a marriage situation in order to obtain that certificate. And we believe that is constitutionally questionable, that the state will require of a married couple to divorce in order for that to take place. So I think there's an awful lot of further detail to be done. So what I would say is that from my own perspective as Vice Chair of the committee, I think every member of the committee would accept that we have an incredibly open mind about the issue at hand, that we're not going to accept a piece of legislation which doesn't go as far as it potentially could do. There are constitutional impediments that surround it and are the context around the bill. But I think if we work on a bipartisan basis and not make this a political football, then we might actually achieve something for on an issue which is so personal and so intimate and so crucial to somebody's view of themselves that the party politics, as I say, has been and will be taken out of the room. So we've looked at the heads of the bill, we've made our recommendations. The report is here. There haven't been too many reports from our committee since it's been sitting for almost 3 years. But I think it says a lot about the committee, of the seriousness it took this issue and the importance of this issue, that this is a report that we really wanted to produce and to have our say as to what we feel should happen next. So as you said at the time, I remember saying myself, we hope that this legislation is a rolling document that it will be allowed to be adapted, changed, improved as time goes on. So when we do get the legislation passed to the House of the Oireachtas, it's something that's worthy of the people sitting here, but more importantly worthy of a country that calls itself, as John Lyon says, a republic.